Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be discussing the A Ma Maniere Jordan 2 Airness. Today's head of cop format will be a little bit different than usual since there are going to be several separate drops for these, all of which I will guide you for. It'll be very similar to the format we discussed when it came to the Union Jordan 2 drop. Furthermore, although it's certainly going to be useful for any and all restocks or releases, I highly suggest specifically for this drop too, following my Twitter KeithAdam10 and also personals for you, and you'll see why that is later. This release date is currently set for May 13th. However, that is just a date for the A Ma Maniere website release, which will also be the best release of the three. There will be others that will be on different dates that we will be discussing as well. Retail is $225. This is unfortunate since it's rather high and it will inevitably hurt the margin, of course, especially since the shipping is going to be unnecessarily high as well. Union kind of came in clutch when they messed up everybody's orders because they ended up refunding that really high shipping, and that actually really helped the margins out as well. But throughout this video, we will first discuss the A Ma Maniere Shopify release, Nike sneakers release, boutique releases, and finally, regarding resale, we will cover that towards the end of the video as always. With that introduction out of the way though, let's jump into how to cop these, starting with the A Ma Maniere Shopify release. First of all, as most of you guys already saw, if you do follow my Twitter, they did do raffles for both local as well as online, and even one more for their marketing Discord. However, the most important release where you guys will have the best chance, of course, is going to be on the fourth point that they mentioned, and that is their online launch, which should be taking place on the 13th. Historically, A Ma Maniere has executed these new domain drops extremely well, contrary to Union's most recent release, unfortunately. If you happen to be new, I have some amazing news for you. Unlike most drops for Shopify where manual is near impossible here, the method A Ma Maniere will be using is extremely possible for manual users. Unfortunately, it is no longer manual exclusive completely. Just a disclaimer, bots have made necessary adaptations, and granted, it's certainly not as efficient as botting a normal Shopify drop, but some botters will inevitably still hit some clips. Regardless, there is still a good 30 to 40% of manual success here, which is exponentially higher than normal Shopify drops. So again, I cannot emphasize enough that this is going to be a good drop for manual users still. Essentially, these Shopify sites have been creating new domains where they load the product and all the stock for it, not on their normal website. However, they do keep this new domain private until the actual drop does go live. Although it is sometimes possible to get the early domains ahead of time, like we provided for in Endurance in the past, the main point is that the vast majority of people will, of course, not know the domain ahead of time, and it certainly does help to reduce and deter some botting. It's just not 100% foolproof all the time. But okay, now you understand it. They drop on a new secret website domain. What kind of tips do you have for actually copying on here though? Well, step one, of course, is to follow my Twitter, as I mentioned earlier, KeithAdam10 and personals for you. When a product does go live, I will tweet out the link for this new domain. I'd also suggest just on another Chrome tab also refreshing the site yourself, because sometimes you might be slightly faster than me sending it out. When you first open the site, you should expect to see multiple products, one of which will be the sneaker, and then there should be some others for merchandise most likely as well. From here, you should now expect a question pop up on either add to cart, or sometimes they put it on the captcha. Be ready to either Google or just answer a very simple common sense type of question. For example, what color is an orange? Obviously, we all know that the orange is blue. Be ready to enter that in as fast as you can. Sometimes they might ask you to spell something. It's usually very simple, but also have Google ready just in case it's some kind of A Ma Maniere history related question. I know some sites tend to do that. Then you will also get a checkpoint captcha. Lately, they have been using the H captcha box captchas pretty frequently, and here I have a very crucial tip which can be the difference for many people not copying and copying. But on the last drop, they actually did not use the H captcha box, but I'm still not sure if this is going to be a permanent decision or not, so I want to ensure that you're prepared regardless. So if they don't use it, they'll just be the normal reCAPTCHA checkpoint. But anyway, just a tip that I did want to offer in the hypothetical case that they do use that H captcha box. By instinct, you're going to want to solve that captcha box as fast as possible, but instead of doing that, you actually have to intentionally take about 3 seconds to drag the box very slowly. Then you should be able to pass on your first try. If you do it too quickly, on the other hand, you will often get looped infinitely, and that's going to reduce your chances of copying exponentially, of course, because every second second you wait could be an extra couple of minutes in queue. So after you solve that CAPTCHA, click continue and you'll be waiting in queue. After the queue, of course, the checkout process is pretty self-explanatory. If you do have access to an autofill extension that doesn't only autofill but also completes the entire checkout process for you, make sure you guys are taking advantage of that, of course. An example of this would be passive autofill. This is something that we provide all Endurance members for, and it's completely free for them. If you have access to something like this, definitely take advantage, as it's much more than an autofiller. It's going to pass all the pages for you too and expedite the process significantly. If you don't have access to one or intend on purchasing one, at the very least, what I would suggest to you is setting up Chrome autofill if you haven't done that already. Now, aside from the A Ma Maniere website release, we also do have a few other opportunities for these as well. And speaking of opportunities, before we do move on, I did want to share some info regarding today's sponsor, and that is Skillshare. The first 1,000 of my viewers to sign up using my code KeithAdam or my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. This way you can start exploring your creativity today. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring and creative classes for anyone who loves learning, like myself. If you're like me and have a specific skill that you're trying to learn, Skillshare is definitely the perfect place to start. As most of you guys know, I've been programming in C# and Java for a couple of years, but recently I've started planning some projects that actually require Swift and JavaScript, and Skillshare has really helped me a ton with this. I've been taking one class from Afraz, who has been absolutely incredible. While I'm just in the early stages of learning Swift, I've so far been able to use this class to build a messaging app, which has been really fun so far. I also started taking a class on how to use Figma. I've always been paying designers for my projects, but in order to truly bring some of my creative ideas to life, I figured it would be best if I just made them myself. So luckily Skillshare had me covered here too. Just the other day I started taking a class from Daniel Scott for Figma UI and UX Design Essentials. While I just recently started, he's already made it so easy and engaging to learn, such as this first class project he assigned, which I was able to do relatively easily thanks to his guidance. So if you're like me and you're interested in investing in yourself and personal growth, definitely consider trying out Skillshare. And remember, for the first 1,000 of you guys, it's a completely free 1-month trial if you do sign up using my code KeithAdam or using my link in the description. So start exploring your creativity today with Skillshare. But moving on now, the next best chance aside from A Ma Maniere will definitely be Nike sneakers. They're not loaded on Nike sneakers at the moment, of course, but they will most likely load as soon as we do approach the drop. Now, what's the most efficient way to cop off of Nike sneakers manually? Well, these are most likely going to be loaded as a Dan drop, also known as a draw, which they have been doing when it comes to a lot of these very limited types of releases. This is assuming they do not drop via some kind of sneakers hunt. However, when it comes to these Dan drops or draws, you essentially just have 10 minutes to enter in as many of your accounts into the raffle as possible. Evidently, the more you can enter within that period, the better your chance will be. However, I actually made an updated full video, which I'd highly suggest watching, where I go in depth, because there have actually been some probable changes recently, so I'd suggest looking into it if you do have some time. And finally, aside from sneakers, we also may potentially be seeing some boutiques drop these. The vast majority of them will be raffles, unfortunately, if they do receive any pairs. Regardless, you won't have much chance at all at these if they do get any. Out of all of them, the one you might have a sliver at a shot at would be Kith, but that's pretty unlikely too. So in conclusion, you have a great shot manually to cop these on the Maniere Shopify website on the launch, and then you also have another chance to get these via Nike sneakers, which will be a good shot, but don't count on the boutique releases. You're definitely not going to cop there, unfortunately. With the head of cop out of the way though, let's move on to the resale predictions portion of the video. So stock on these is expected to be around what was seen on the Jordan 3 A Ma Maniere release, which was relatively limited, but again, we did see plenty of manual success on those, similar to many of these new domain collaboration releases, so I wouldn't be too worried. In terms of demand, there is inevitably going to be relatively high demand on these just because they're an A Ma Maniere collaboration, perhaps not quite to the scale as a Union collab, for example, like the Union Jordan 2s, but it's certainly up there. Unfortunately, I would expect these to carry less demand than what we experienced on any prior collaborations with Maniere, like the 3s or Jordan 1s, and that's simply because Jordan 2s in general don't garner a ton of demand in themselves. I've also been seeing significantly more negative comments about the aesthetics of these compared to prior collabs when it comes to the social media posts. With the retail of $225 plus the high shipping from Maniere plus tax in most states, I'm still expecting these to be profitable, but with a subpar to decent margin depending on which size you end up getting, the larger size of which will definitely be the best. I'd say it would land somewhere in the range of where the Union Gray Fog pair is at right now, and potentially a little bit lower than that as well. But regardless, I'm still going full throttle on these because I do believe, even if the margin isn't fantastic, I do believe I will be able to profit off of these, especially on the bigger sizes. And I'm even considering going for a personal pair too. Let me know what you guys are thinking about these though. But anyway, that'll conclude it for today. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed, or perhaps if you learned a thing or two. And remember, be sure to use my code KeithAdam or the link in the description below for Skillshare. The first 1,000 of you guys will get a free trial for 1 complete month. So be sure to check it out if you're interested, and subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you stay 100% updated on all hyped releases. Also, feel free to check out the links in the description below for reliable, fast, residential proxies and pre-verified Nike, sneakers, or Adidas accounts. Also, feel free to follow Endurance and Twitter for updates on restocks or key giveaways, and same goes for Gargantua if you want to keep up with the progress or restocks. Last but not least, of course, make sure to follow KeithAdam10 in personals for you. This way you guys stay updated on all urgent info like I was discussing today. With that though, I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day.